on the operational control of the border, as that term is defined in the Secure Fence Act of 2006. That, of course, requires zero immigrants from crossing the border in order to achieve that standard. And of course, that's unreasonable, unattainable. So in 2007, under the Bush administration, the department issued guidelines to redefine what operational control is. So if you are actually trying to point to this and the letter of the law, then you ought to talk to your colleagues in the Wayback Machine in 2007 who changed that definition.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Would the gentleman yield? Would the
The
gentleman
gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize Mrs. Green for 5 minutes to comment on the amendment to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're listening to Democrats today talk about Secretary Mayorkas requesting funding from Congress and talking about detention space. But the facts tell the truth. Secretary Mayorkas has requested less detention space. Fiscal year 2020, $2.7 billion for 54,000 beds, including 2,500 for family units. Fiscal year 2021, $3.1 billion for 60,000 beds, including 5,000 for family units. Fiscal year 2022, he requested $1.8 billion for 32,500 beds. Fiscal year 2023, he requested $1.4 billion for 25,000 beds. And in fiscal year 2024, Secretary Mayorkas reduced it again down to $1.3 billion for 25,000 beds. This is a reduction of 9,000 from fiscal year 23 enacted. DHS has not provided Congress with statutorily mandated reports on detention needs as required under 8 U.S.C. 1368 and requested by the committee in a letter on January 4th, 2024. Also, DHS claims in fiscal year 22 and 23 budget requests that a reduction in detention capacity level will not impede ICE's ability to apprehend, detain, and remove non-citizens that present a threat to national security, border security, and public safety. Secretary Mayorkas closed detention facilities, closed them, while paroling en masse millions of illegal aliens into our country. By December 2021, DHS stopped using family detention centers for family units. In March 2022, ICE announced it would close an Alabama detention facility and limit the use of 3 others in Florida, Louisiana, and North Carolina. Secretary Mayorkas refused to utilize MPP. But let's talk about what has been the result of that. Human trafficking is a $150 billion a year industry. And what has this done for the cartels? Cartels and coyotes are making over $13 billion a year in human trafficking alone off of Secretary Mayorkas's willful breaking of federal immigration laws. This revenue is 26 times more than cartels earned under President Trump, approximately $500 million under Trump, according to the New York Times. But what is that doing? This is trafficking children, trafficking women. This is what he is not holding these people. He is not detaining these people. He's not coming to us and asking us for more money. He's asking us for less money. He's asking us for less beds. And then he's closing down detention facilities. It is an outright lie to claim that Secretary Mayorkas is following the law when in fact he's not. He is breaking the law. And he is paroling them by the millions into the interior of the United States. What else has happened since then? Fentanyl, the #1 killer for Americans between ages 18 and 45. Let's also talk about how many Americans are dying. 300 Americans a day are dying. Let's talk about what that does to people like 2 of my constituents, Jose and Isabel Lerma, who were killed in a human smuggling pursuit caused by Mayorkas's open border policies. What about 20-year-old Kayla Marie Hamilton? Remember her mother? Poor Kayla was raped and strangled to death by an illegal MS-13 gang member who was actually apprehended at the border. Apprehended. He had gang tattoos on his body. But because Secretary Mayorkas breaks federal law, he says, go ahead and release these people into our country. And this 20-year-old was raped and murdered by an MS-13 gang member who should have never been in the United States. This is the outcome. That's just one example. We could spend hours and hours. You know what? We could go all week, and I'm sure Chairman Green would let us do it if we talked about every American who has been affected by Secretary Mayorkas willfully breaking federal immigration law. Is that what we must do? If we must, we must. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
The gentlelady yields. I now recognize Mr. Payne for 5 minutes discussing the amendment to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to yield to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Gentleman yields. Ms.